Greetings everyone. Before I get into this video, I'm going to say that if your idea of God or your religion stipulates that there is one God and that the God name is Jesus, I'm going to encourage you to skip out of this one. I wouldn't want to um, contaminate your mind. If you believe in one kind of spirituality and it's of a Eurocentric ideology, this is not for you. I'm not here to insult you or your affiliation with religion at all. I don't want to do this. This is my platform. And when I come on here and I speak on certain matters that might be like poison to your soul, don't blame me. Once you hear me get into the topic and you realize it's not for you, I respect the fact that you will just choose to remove yourself. And then if another topic that I do inspire you, you can join me. This is not one of those ones where, you are able to hold on to your ideology and not let go with your life. This one is going to ask you to stretch your imagination, and it's going to ask you to open your mind. In my opinion, a person with an open mind has the ability to then take information, decipher for him or herself what they perceive to be the truth. But closing one's mind to knowing and understanding different ideologies, in my mind, is very detrimental. But I can't tell you how to live your life. However, tonight, what I'm going to talk to you about does require a very open mind. And if you're not someone who want to open yourself to demonic thoughts and possessions, then this is not for you. Because you see, anything that is different from a lot of people's understanding, what you've held on to from childhood and for generations, anything else that is introduced to you, you're going to see it as demonic. And I don't want to draw you out. I don't want to push you into avenues that you don't wish to go. Okay? 2 minutes I spent telling you, don't watch this video. So if you watch it and then you come to comment your negativity or your negative comments, then I don't know what to say to you except to insult you. Okay, so before I begin, I'm going to give you, I have some notes over here. I'm going to explain this to you before I can jump into tonight's topic. We're talking about African spirituality, understanding what it is. And so here I have written it out so I can be precise. African spirituality is the understanding of nature and human relationship to nature and the cosmos. Our ancestors, our African ancestors, embraced the principle that govern that relationship. So the relationship between human being and nature and the cosmos. Okay, the most popular system, because it was not a religion, these are systems. The most popular system was the Yoruba. In Nigeria, you hear about the Akan, places like Benin and Haiti and New Orleans. Looked at some place called it Voodoo or Voodoo. Cuba, Santeria, Puerto Rico, same thing. These are spiritual systems. They're all one and the same. Okay, and in these systems, we look at the law of nature and we look at our relationship with nature. Okay, now within the Yoruba tradition, we didn't talk about gods. That's European. But we talked about the forces or understood the forces in nature, which is then law of nature as it predicts how we impact on these forces in nature and how they impact on us. Hopefully, I have clarified some things for you with that. Anyway, as I said, before the presence of the Europeans, Africans had no understanding of God, are not referred to anything as God. They understood systems, understood the law of nature. And before the introduction to gods, um, there was harmony between our people and the cosmos. Today, most of us are unaware or incapable of identifying how these energies interact with the forces that I mentioned. Our ancestors understood how their thought process and their actions helped them manifest different realities. See, we have lost a lot of that. There's still practitioners in Africa. There's still a few individuals. I don't think so much authentic people are in Jamaica who understand the spirituality. Um, but some may, because I mean, over these centuries, they have kept and held on to vestiges of the past from our ancestors. But I can do this in another video where you will understand how obeah, for example, became outlawed, became illegal to this very day, and why it was made so, of course, when it was used as a defense mechanism. But obeah itself, as I've mentioned in another video, it is a spiritual thing, and its greatest impact has to do with healing. But we'll talk about that another time. Our people, they master the science of medicine, understanding herbology. And so they saw medicine as a manifestation of spirituality, looking at the divine laws of nature and so on. And then we go back to talking about, the orishas. For example, Oya represents the wind, represents change. Shanga represents royalty, courage, awareness. These spiritual understandings would therefore help us in this time if we understood it, but we don't. And what we understand now, and what we see it as being demonized for all these years, and people are not interested. Black folks are not really interested to knowing more about it because, again, you're told, that if you know these things or these things from Africa, or they tell you things that Egyptians used to do was evil, and yet you have a book like this written by not an African person, but this person named Manly P. Hall wrote this book. It's called The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And what it does is look at different culture and their interaction with the laws of nature. We'll talk about that another time. I touched on it briefly before, but that's not what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to give you a little refresher when I speak about African spirituality, what I'm referring to. But really, the meat of the matter in this, at the 7-minute mark, I'm trying to say that I'm going to identify 5 signs that demonstrate that individuals in Jamaica are harnessing the different energies to produce change in Jamaica, and not necessarily good change. They're using, and again, I have to go back and do another video that show the different orishas that we have in the pantheon, their purpose, what they represent, and so on and so forth. But as I said in a previous video, when we are able to tap into our spirituality and recognize the different energies that exist around us, we can use it for one or two things. I mean, more than two things, but I mean, we can use it for good, we can use it for bad, using the layman expression of what good and bad is. Okay, but right now, we want to talk about the fact that there are things happening spiritually in Jamaica that people don't quite understand. And so I made a video sometime this week talking about who was responsible for the violence in Jamaica, but I was looking at the physical aspect of that. And in this video, I'm trying to use the spiritual explanation for what is happening. So I see these signs and I'm going to mention them here. And I don't want to make this very long, so I'm going to have to do a part 2. Number 1, there is blood sacrifice being done in Jamaica. And when we talk about blood sacrifice, we're talking about killings, the murder rate that keeps increasing over time, the wanton disregard for human life, sometimes manifesting itself in people beheading others, the gruesome nature of that killing. That's a sign that someone or individuals, are using blood sacrifice. Number 2, alcohol, the use of alcohol represents some kind of spiritual energy that is being tapped that spirit is being fed as people become alcoholics. And the way they're using alcohol as a symbol of the high life, as of wealth, they're associating this with the high life with wealth. But when you look at it in the spiritual sense, this spirit, the energy that exists in alcohol, is taking a hold of individual. It's almost like possessing them, and they're drinking. It's like the debauchery, the lifestyle that people are living now. Definitely is a sign of the occult, the use of negative vibrations in Jamaica. Number 3, sexual perversion. You know, what is supposed to be private thing is a very public thing. And you look at the dance hall and you see activities within the dance hall. You see possessions right in front of your face. And the music and some of the lyrics in the music that is being presented. Now, I've explained in the past of how it's a rebellious music to begin with, and how individuals have understood that if you don't do certain things or say certain things within the dancehall space, you're not going to get recognized. But that the spirit of perversion also exists in the music, and the music is used to sort of it's like a seance in some ways to possess the people. In the possession of the people through the music, we are seeing a big change in Jamaica. So this possession, sorry, is operating like a kind of ritualistic thing within the dancehall space. The nakedness, the slackness, the deeply sexual overtones that you see and hear in the music is a sign that these energies that are being used. So not everyone in dance hall, not all the artists, but certainly many of them are tapping into this energy and using it to gain wealth and to control people. Number 4, road fatality. In another video, I'll explain Elegba, who Elegba is, one of the pantheon in the Yoruba tradition, one of, in Western ideas, they would say one of the gods, but, as part of the system, forgive me, Elegba plays a pivotal role, at the crossroad, and many individuals in our life on a day-to-day basis, we come face to face with a Elegba at the crossroad whenever we have to make a decision, which way to go. We are faced with this energy, if I could say. And this one ties in with the sexual perversion as well, but I'm putting it separate. Nudity. If you look at some other religion and look at some other culture, you see how sex has played a particular role in individuals sort of tapping into that energy to gain wealth and fortune. A lot of what you see in other cultures, when it comes to wealth, you hear about these other negative, and I'm not saying it's negative, it's how it's perceived or how it's presented. I don't want to mention those names today because I'm speaking about African spirituality, but how other agents of change, how they have tapped into the darker side and have used these energies to gain wealth. And so nudity in some of these other cultures is always a clear sign of, spirits being used or manipulated for people's purposes. 1, blood sacrifice is represented with the killings, the gruesome nature of so much of these killings. Alcohol use, or the consumption of alcohol and the addiction of our people. It's a sign that individuals are being possessed with alcohol. 3, sexual perversion in all its forms. Just imagine all the most perverted ways of sex and its presence, and it's, been forced upon us. We're forced to see it. Our children are not allowed to have innocence anymore because between, lewd conversation and lewd activities, and the presence of nudeness in front of children. Every day they are losing their innocence, so the very children are being possessed by some of these demonic forces. Every spirit that can be used for healing or for positive vibration can be harnessed for evil as well. I'm going to stop it right here. Didn't intend for this to be so long, and I'm going to have to expound it further because there's a lot more to say. Stay blessed.